Hello, and welcome to Simply Astrology. Today we're going to have a look at the horoscope of James Randi, the world-famous skeptic. I should first point out, though, that this is actually the second video I've made about James, because the first one I made had the wrong birth date, and I was out, in fact, by 20 days. So I'd like to discuss that and have a look at one of the vulnerabilities of astrology, and also, hopefully, we'll find some of its strengths too. So, let's have a look. Okay, here is James Randi's correct horoscope. My apologies to the people who were bothered by the previous one. You may find some comfort in knowing that it is hard to imagine a bigger mistake that I could have made, so enjoy. So, now we see that he is a Leo, and in fact has 4 planets in Leo, which at the simplest level simply emphasizes the attributes of confidence, leadership, charisma, and a willingness to enjoy a lot of attention. Of all the signs of the zodiac, Leos are the natural show people. In the old horoscope, the incorrect one that I made, he was a Virgo, and these 2 planets, Venus and Mercury, were also in Virgo. The moon was over here in Capricorn, and it all combined to make a strong Earth-based configuration. The rest of the planets did not move that much, so much of it is still the same. This said to me, though, that a big part of Randi's skepticism was based on pragmatism and practicality, key attributes of Earth signs. However, it substantially dulled down the showmanship side of his nature, so much so that I had begun to think that this part of his life, did not really reflect a true interest for him. However, with so much emphasis on Leo in this horoscope, the attribute of showmanship, which was a major thing in his life, is front and center. It is glaringly apparent. The entertainment business would have been a natural outlet for these energies. If we look at Mercury, which represents the thinking ability, straight away we see he's got that robust Leo confidence. However, there is much more. Mercury has a powerful and very positive connection with Uranus. This is the planet of originality and inventiveness, and when combined with Mercury, high intelligence. In fact, astrologically, there is almost no better indicator of a brilliant mind than Mercury combined like this with Uranus. While the previous horoscope showed considerable intelligence, it pales compared to this particular combination. Also, with these 2 planets in the fire signs, it suggests a sharp ability to cut to the chase and get to the point. Now, in the old horoscope, I spoke about what we look for when we talk about skepticism. I pointed to Saturn. I also pointed out that nearby was the South Node, that point in a horoscope that relates to rejection, negativity, the ability to say no, and the point best equipped to identify what's wrong. These 2 points had not changed much in the 20 days since the other horoscope. But what is new in this horoscope is the link this point has with the genius combination of Mercury and Uranus. We should note at this point that the combination of Saturn and the South Node was active for several months in 1928, the year of Randi's birth, meaning that quite a lot of people born at this time had either a skeptical or negative outlook on life, and of course to varying degrees of intensity. However, this brilliant mind combination existed for only 2 or 3 days at the time when Randi was born. This combination speaks of an acute ability to identify what's wrong, what is false, in short, what to be wary and skeptical of, and very few people would be able to do it better or with more well-reasoned arguments. When we look at the planet Uranus, we might take into account the fact that it relates to cutting and surgery. In this context, it relates to mental incisiveness, and if we look at the house that Uranus is in, we see that it is the 9th house of philosophy, ideology, education, justice, and religious principles. Interestingly, the sign associated with the 9th house is Sagittarius, in which we find Saturn in the South Node. So we see some resonance there. Now, this suggests 2 things. First, to apply the high values implied by this combination, and second, to cut into areas where the same high values are not being applied. Sagittarius has an association with exaggeration of what is true. Such excesses make perfect targets for the sharp end of this brilliant mind. And incidentally, Saturn adds toughness, discipline, and order to the thinking processes involved in this combination. But there's more. The crowning glory of this combination is the North Node, that point in a horoscope which relates to destiny and fulfilling one's life path. And it sits precisely between Uranus and Mercury, indicating a deeply felt call within James Randi, at least according to astrology, to take the fruits of his analyses and share them with the public, which is represented by the 11th house, which is where we find the point of destiny. Another point which caught my interest is the strong and positive relationship between the planet of power and regeneration, Pluto, and the planet of health, Ceres. Immediately, it suggests a remarkably healthy constitution and the possibility of being able to develop extraordinary physical capabilities, especially in conjunction with Pluto's mind control trait. As I understand it, he did some extraordinary physical tricks in his earlier days, and this suggests quite a capacity to do just that. Now I'd like to finish by pointing out how being born in the year of the dragon, according to Chinese astrology, confers a strong awareness of what it means to act honourably and to act from high standards, especially if you're stepping into an adversarial situation. And the numerology of the 8 birth force adds a strong note of personal power and self-possession, and the capacity to do what it takes. This is a great number for business executives. Okay, so that's my new and updated take on the horoscope of James Randi, but I'd like to add a footnote to this video and to say that, for me, astrology tries to encapsulate the world with a small number of symbols that are forced to include a limitless number of possibilities. However, the small number of symbols has a vast array of combinations. Personally, I think it is the self-chosen challenge of any astrologer to fathom these combinations and their relevance to the world and circumstances and people around them. Now, I hope you have seen, partly through my mistaken assumptions in the old horoscope, that although astrology can be made to lean one way, when it's translated with its most basic of meanings, there is a ring of truth which actually speaks louder. As I see it, where an astrologer may fail, it seems to me that astrology does not. When I looked at the horoscope of James Randi, the correct one, I actually felt a sense of relief. Frankly, it just made more sense to me. Anyway, for those of you that do feel there is something to this astrology, well, I'm there too. I've simply seen too much evidence of an intrinsic accuracy for me to ignore, and that's all there is to it for me. Of course, without knowing my experience here, some people will find this easy to discount, so feel free to assume you are correct and discount away. It may save you a lot of hassle. For the record, I have zero interest in the mystical mumbo-jumbo that tends to surround astrology, or the amazingly complex ways of fathoming it, or even in trying to provide answers to why does it work or to defend against people who say it does not work. I'm just not there for all of that. Basically, I'm not interested in persuading people to believe in astrology. I'm simply inviting people to take a look and see if they can see the same thing that I see, about which I can only say it's fascinating.